Hey friends, I'm Otis Gibbs, and this is Michael Corcoran. He's going to give us some backstory on that classic scene in Heartworn Highways when Townes Van Zandt sang Waitin Around To Die to Uncle Seymour Washington.
That was at Uncle Seymour's house on 13th, West 13th Street. But that was where that's where the hippies hung out. I mean, Clarksville now is probably one of the richest neighborhoods in Austin. But back then it was all black. It was a freedmen's town. And it was started by a slave who bought 2 acres, former slave. He was freed. He bought 2 acres on 10th Street and started selling plots to other freed slaves. And then Elijah Peace was I don't know what he was, but he was a rich guy up there. And he had a lot of slaves and had a lot of land. And he gave land to his slaves. And so for about a 6-block area, it was all black, and it was rural. In 1928, Austin had a city plan where they wanted all the blacks to be in one area, so that they would only have to have 1 swimming pool, not 2, not 1 for the blacks, 1 for the whites, etc. They wanted all the blacks in one area, and so if you didn't go there, you didn't get services. And so the blacks in Clarksville says, "Oh, we don't care. We use an outhouse. We don't want you looking at. Just leave us alone. We don't need you. Just leave us alone." And so they hunted and fished, and they had their own thing. And the roads were all dirt. They had to they oiled the roads so that the dust wouldn't come up. And so you had the grime everywhere. And that's how it was until 75. The first time they ever paved it was 75. So anyway, a lot of the hippie kids, all the white people back there were afraid of black neighborhoods. That's a bad neighborhood. But the hippies didn't care. But $50 a month rent, we'll take our chances. That's what it was, $50-$60 a month. And so they started moving in there, and Townes got his trailer. Townes and his girlfriend Cindy, they got free use of a trailer from this guy who he used to fly marijuana, and he died in a plane crash. And so they could stay there as long as they wanted to because he was gone. I think he might have given them a month or 2. They ended up staying about maybe 9 months. Townes never really lived in Austin except that time. It might have been a couple other times he was couch surfing, but he was really more Houston, Nashville, Fort Worth. But Austin kind of claims him based on that. But Seymour was this guy, really like a preacher, and he had his own kind of philosophy, and all the black kids thought he was really cool. He used to drink from when he woke up to when he went to bed, all day long. He'd get drunk and, philosophize. And it was a cool thing, I guess. It was cool for him, too, because he was an old man. He was 80. He was 79 when they made Heartworn Highways. He died later that year. That's why he was crying when Townes sang Waitin Around To Die. He had bladder cancer. He was on his way out. So he ended up dying at age 80. That was a cool period, I think, of Austin that the filmmaker was really fortunate to get, the guy who made Heartworn Highways. But at the time, though, they were all junkies. They were all on heroin. And a woman that I talked to, she's still alive, and she was part of that crew, and she says, yeah, they had decoys. They would do decoys so that the film crew wouldn't be around them when they were going to shoot up. They'd say, hey, come over here, look at this chicken. And then they'd go over there and chase a chicken while they're over there shooting up. But it was just, it was a crazy time. I think was it 75? And then, then Clarksville got gentrified. There's still pockets there's still black people from the old days that still live there. Very few. Well, the only thing is Sweet Home Baptist Church, where Seymour sang in the choir. It was right behind his house. That's still there. It's a black church. In this white neighborhood. Yeah, he's buried in Evergreen Cemetery. I did a little column on it on my Substack, and I have the address and the location of the grave on there. But he was pretty well known in Austin in the 50s and 60s as the walking blacksmith. He would go from Buda to Blanco, and he would basically hitchhike to go shoe horses. He didn't have a car, and so he was well known that way. And there's a writer in town named Billy Lee Bramer who wrote The Gay Place, which is the the book about Austin that people say, you got to read this book. I think it's when LBJ was a senator. It's around those eras. It's Schultz's Garden, that sort of thing. But while he was at the Austin American Statesman, he wrote a big feature about Uncle Seymour. And I got a lot of my article from that. It was a really nice piece. Townes, I never actually met him in person. I talked to him on the phone once. I had to review a show of his in Dallas at Port David's Pub. And it was one of the good ones. You know, he had JT with him, I think, to sort of make sure he was on his best behavior, his son. And so I knew a lot of the songs. I'm reviewing the show. I knew a lot of the songs, but I got the road manager, Harold Eggers. I said, he was leaving. I said, hey, give me your number. I'm going to call you tomorrow morning and just get the set list, just to make sure I got all the right titles and everything like that. So I call him the next morning, and Townes picks up. And he goes over the songs. Just tell me the songs you wrote and like that. And I said, I was really surprised you did that Bruce Springsteen song. You know, he did a car song, and it was Racing in the Streets. And he goes, that's not a car song. You know, you need to go back and listen to it again. And then I listened to it again, and that's Townes' story. That song is about just destroying everything in your path to get what you want artistically. You know, just like forget your loved ones, forget your this and that. You're on a mission. And so that was really the only time I talked to him, but I did see him once. I saw a perfect Townes set in New York City at Tramps. It was during a new music seminar, and it was also the day I got my first credit card, or used it. I got an American Express card, and it's like I'm just keep them coming, more beer. You know, it's like $95. You know, and I'm like broke. I didn't realize that beers cost like $8 in New York at the time, but it was totally worth it. It's just like, but that showed me when I would go to Port David's, I would bring $20 with me, and they had $4.50 for Heineken, I think. So I took $20 with me, so that's like 3 beers with tips. And one day I ended up writing 3 $20 checks because I ran out of 20. He was just the guy that you just wanted to drink when he played, you know. And I'm kind of revisiting. My son's a big Townes Van Zandt fan, and Blaze Foley. Those are his 2 favorite guys, you know. So I'm kind of revisiting them because Blaze, I didn't really give Blaze any attention when he was in town. He was a scary guy that you walked across to avoid, you know. But then you listen to his music, and Townes really loved him too. So he must have been pretty good if Townes liked him. Though other people like Guy Clark hated him. Other of Townes' friends didn't like Blaze because they thought Blaze was a bad influence. But it's really the other way around. I mean, Blaze didn't. He started drinking whiskey when he met Townes.